So I get the small crowd because everyone's getting ready to eat. So I'll try to keep this nice and entertaining, so give you something to get excited about before lunch. What I'm going to talk about is redefining innovation. And I've been in the tech world for quite a long time. What we need to start doing is shifting away from technology and focusing on the human outcomes that technology delivers. But to start off, a little bit of an introduction. I have nothing to sell. I work more as an independent consultant. But what's interesting is I've spent a lot of time in this space. So I started my career in banking a long time ago, came to the Netherlands in the mid-90s, went to grad school, was still in banking, and then I jumped ship to go into the technology world when this internet thing took off. So when the dot-com era, I was in London for the rise and fall of it. I was involved in the launch of the BlackBerry, where we finally put mobile email in the palm of our hands and ruined our work-life balance. I went on to Vodafone, where we started putting together complex solutions. And then after 10 years of living in London, I thought it was time for a change. So I went out to Asia Pacific. I moved to Singapore 15 years ago. I was head of innovation for BT in Asia Pacific as we started shifting into things like cloud services, managed services, software as a service. And then I went to the analyst firm IDC, where I was head of IoT, mobility, and telecoms for a number of years. And that was when IoT was first coming out. About 8 years ago, I went out on my own, and I'm an independent consultant, and I talk about a lot of different topics. And normally I talk about whatever anybody wants me to talk about. So for a time there, 7, 8 years ago, IoT was huge. Then it was all about smart cities. Then it moved into prop tech. Then it moved into future of work. And now we're getting Gen AI. But I cover a lot of these different things, and I sit in the middle of the ecosystem. That means that I get to work with cities, regulators, supply and demand, investors, VCs, and I try to make sense of the ecosystem. And I also work in partnership with a few other organizations. I was an advisor for McKinsey for a number of years. I was a visiting scholar at Stanford on smart cities. So I tend to have insights brought together from everywhere. And if you look at that career, when I look at it, it sounds really fun, but I want to talk about something else, and that's my personal dilemma. Because I've spent 25 years now at the forefront of emerging tech and trying to make sense of it, but I have to admit, I have a love-hate relationship with the technology industry. I love the fact that we have technologies to transform the way we work, live, and play, but I hate the fact that as an industry, what we tend to do is we overhype the technologies, we oversimplify what it's going to take, and then we underdeliver. And I'll give you a couple of examples on this. Everybody remembers the Google Glass. Came out about, 10, 12 years ago now? Amazing piece of technology, but was never really adopted because we didn't understand that people were going to think it's creepy if someone's just filming you all the time. So great tech, never adopted. More recent one, 5G, which I think is probably the worst technology deployment in history by our industry. And I'll give you some reasons why I think that. I remember about 6 or 7 years ago, I was in a meeting with the CEO of Telstra, and he was talking about 5G, and it was the first time I heard this quote. It's where he said, "We're going to be able to download a movie in seconds." And I raised my hand, and I'm like, nobody downloads movies anymore. We all just use Netflix. But then he proceeded to say how this is really going to transform things, and that bothers me because, okay, say they're true, that we could actually download a movie in seconds. Well, I'm just hammering your network. How are you going to make money out of it? All the operators and network equipment manufacturers globally started to use this tagline, and it makes no sense. Also, to be fair, you can't download a movie in seconds. The only time you download a movie is when you're stuck on a plane and you realize there's no seatback entertainment system, and you frantically grab your phone and try and download something to watch on the plane. And this has happened to me half a dozen times the last couple of years. I've never gotten a video downloaded. So this whole idea of building up the tech, oh, this tech is great, download a movie in seconds. It didn't mean anything to anybody, nobody downloads movies, and nobody even thought about how to make money out of 5G. So what happens now is the operators are starting to put in punitive tariffs again. In Asia in particular, where we're not as highly regulated, roaming has gone back through the roof in reversal. We pay for things like caller ID. You're charging more for caller ID. They're adding in other charges to recoup the billions that they spent on 5G. We didn't understand what we actually wanted to do with the tech, and that was the problem. So what we forget as an industry is that technology does not exist for technology's sake. Technology exists to deliver human outcomes. But if I want to explain what I mean by human outcomes, I need to explain a technology. So I've chosen this one. I'm going to explain what human outcomes are by explaining digital twins. Because digital twins are one of these buzzwords that we have overhyped, oversimplified, and underdelivered over the years. But if I want to explain digital twins and the human outcomes it can deliver, I need a human. So I've chosen this guy. Mr. Angry Road Rage Guy. And he hates sitting in traffic. And right now, he's stuck in this. And he's looking around him, and he just sees the traffic isn't moving, and he doesn't know why. But he looks, and he can see all these different buses. And these buses have cameras and sensors on them, so the bus company knows that they're stuck in traffic. And then you can see all these different taxis, and the taxis have sensors. So the taxi company knows that all the taxis are stuck in traffic, but they don't know why. And then you can see all these city cameras coming around. And the cameras knows that, yes, there's a lot of traffic, but they also know that it's not been an accident, it's just normal traffic. But all this data sits on disparate databases. So what if we combine that all together and started putting it into a city brain or a city map? And that's basically what Google Maps has done. So that's the first step in doing it. But then what if they gave me the chance to look at that data, and I can see it's really blocked up here, but this one's going smoothly, then why don't I go ahead and start changing the way the lighting works and actually try to ease the flow of traffic? Now, cities all over Asia have been doing this for quite a while, a lot of it backed by Alibaba. You've got city brains in about 20 cities across China. You've got it in KL. In Dubai, they've already reduced traffic flow by about 20% by implementing one of these. But let's go back to this guy. So he's still stuck in traffic. What if I walked up to him while he's sitting in traffic and I said, I've got great news for you. I'm going to combine data that's captured by a multiple of different sensors and products that is stored in different databases in different companies and different entities. And I'm going to aggregate that all together and create a platform of platforms. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out there and use AI and ML to actually train the system to try and learn how to identify opportunities to ease the traffic flow. He's just going to get more mad because he doesn't care about the technology. But if I came back to him and I said, look, listen, I got great news. We've got some cool tech. It's going to get you home faster. He might become a little bit less angry. Now, this is a silly example, but let's take it to the next step. What if we try to do that same thing inside of your building's digital twin? So if you start off, we have to think about the human outcomes we want our employees to have in our offices. You want your employees to feel like they're informed, that they're empowered to make decisions, and that they're valued. So how can we achieve that through technology? Well, let's start out the simplest one, stuff we've been doing for 10, 15 years already, aggregating the building management systems into a platform. That makes it nice and easy for the guy who's the facilities manager, because that helps him reduce his costs and consumption. He can monitor and extend the useful life of its assets, and it can help him achieve carbon reduction targets. So that's positive, right? But we have to remember it's all about the business case. And in this, what you're really driving is technology and infrastructure-focused benefits. And to be honest, you don't need a digital twin to do this. This can be all software-driven. So digital twins, this doesn't really make sense. You need to go beyond what you're doing with that. So the next thing, what if we started applying that to more stakeholders and thinking about who else can we give the same type of benefits to inside that organization? Well, the first thing you would need to do is start saying, well, what other data can we capture? So take all your people data, your environmental data, the asset data you have, create a larger platform of platforms that then you can access and extract information from. And then you can go out to people like your chief sustainability officer and start delivering benefits to her. You can help her monitor the carbon emissions and energy consumption, and then she can design strategies to actually help reduce the emissions and then report that progress internally and externally. That same data, that same platform can deliver values to the CSO, yet we don't normally talk to the CSO about this. But then you've also got a workspace manager, the person who runs the design and layout of the office. They can start tracking in real time how people are using the rooms or the desks and what the utilization is. They can evaluate the effectiveness of the current office layout and start redesigning it. And then you can help them to reconfigure it almost in real time. So suddenly now we've got another person we're delivering benefits to. And then you've also got your CFO. He does not care about tech, but tech can help him reduce his CapEx and OpEx, and that matters to him. And then you can start reporting the progress to markets because he wants to show how he's delivering great financial results because he's found ways to deliver or reduce CapEx and OpEx. And it also helps him minimize his carbon taxes going forward, which he doesn't want to spend money, he likes that. But the challenge is, when we go out and sell a digital twin, we talk about the technology, and we talk to technologists about the technology, and we don't understand that there's all these other people who we can deliver benefits to. And when you're talking about the business case, yes, that same digital twin will deliver technology and infrastructure-focused outcomes, but it will also deliver human outcomes to people who influence that decision. And that's what we should be looking at in technology. Because when we do that, we can start making sure that our employees feel informed, empowered, and valued. So what we really need to do as an industry is flip the conversation, and we need to start focusing on the human outcomes. So who's doing that well right now? There's one company that I love, and I can't believe I'm going to say it because it's not a piece of technology that would normally excite me. There's this company out of Australia called Caliper. And the guy who's the CEO used to be the global head of IoT for Telstra. And he built up one of the best solution portfolios in IoT that I have seen, got fed up with the telco world, decided to go out and do it on his own. And all he does is this. They make these sensor housing units. And they view it as the world's most advanced one. It's got a solid spec, 20-year battery life, best-in-class security, focuses across multiple protocols. What I like is you can stick 1,000 different sensors inside of it and it'll auto-config. Global connectivity, so it can be SIM-based, you can use LoRa, satellite, and because there's so many different sensors, his solution is vendor agnostic. When he told me that, I was like, so what? I see so many vendors coming in from China, talking about the same type of solutions. It doesn't really impress me. Where he got me is when he showed me this video and talked to me about it. We'll see if this works. This is what got me excited. And this is how boring my life is that something like this actually excites me. They were going to an industry event and they ran a competition about how quick you can change the battery in their housing unit. And what he was explaining was, if you look at most sensor housing units, sometimes you need screws to actually take them apart. Sometimes the wires are connected, you gotta remove those wires. So you end up having to have basically a qualified technician to just go there and change a battery in a housing unit. That increases your TCO. And his idea is they built it with this in mind. They wanna make sure that anybody can do it because it helps reduce the TCO. And he said that's where it started. And then he started going on a lot more around that. So initially what he wanted to do was reduce the cost of truck rolls. So going out there and replacing these things, because that leads to a reduced TCO. When you reduce the TCO, it helps you when you start selling your solutions going forward. So who does he sell to? And this is an example of a few people that are his normal decision makers that are part of the process of selling a water sensing unit for a sewage system in Sydney or a rail deployment in America. It can be IT, it could be the maintenance manager, and they might care about the tech. But the security officer just cares about security. When he talks to the head of operations and the COO, they care about the finances. So whenever he goes in, he sells a different message to everybody, and he never leads with the tech. And let me give you an example about this. He's got one client in the US. It costs them $30,000 for a truck roll to replace a housing unit that sits below a sewer system, in the sewer system. So just to block off the road, remove the sewer cap, get somebody in there, get the people there, fixed, change it around. So he goes in there, he never even talks about his technology. He goes in there and tells them, I'm gonna help you reduce your truck roll cost, and I can save you money that way. Then by the time he explains it to them, and he says, by the way, my sensors are about 1,000 to 2,000 per sensor, depending on what you want in it. That doesn't even matter. If you've already saved 30,000 per truck roll, so he's flipped his whole messaging around so that he's talking to them and solving the problems. He's delivering a human outcome to, yes, if it's tech, he can go down tech and say, we have the best-in-class tech. But if he's talking to a COO or a CFO and they are a decision maker in this, he talks to them in terms of the tech, the value that tech is gonna deliver to them. So basically, for him, it's all about truck rolls. And truck rolls, believe it or not, are human outcomes. As an industry, we'll be much better off when we just don't talk about the tech, we understand who the decision makers are, and we deliver that message to them in terms that matter to them and deliver human outcomes to them. So yes, technology will transform the way we work, live, and play, as long as you remember it's about the people and that technology exists to deliver human outcomes. Thank you.